The forecasters say we have some really cold temperatures coming in a few days, and I just want to take today and go through and make sure I got things prepared for that the best that I can. Now the sheep can handle some really cold temperatures. They're pretty hardy in the cold temperatures. What makes it hard on them is the wind, and I don't know how much wind we're going to have. I've been trying to look at some forecasts, see if I can figure out what direction the wind is likely to come from, so I can help get things situated to give them some good wind blocks. Where they're at right now, they really don't have any protection from the wind, so I'm going to try to do better on that. And in that vein, one of the first things I need to do, of course the best thing would be for them to be able to get in the barn, and I'm going to try to do some of that by cleaning up this mess and leaving things opened up so they can get in here when it gets that bad. Whether they'll come in here or not, I don't know. If they're not used to coming in, sometimes they just won't. But as in most everything, you got to think safety first. And in that vein, my Ritchie waterer over here, the yellow waterer, I've got a heater in there to keep the water from freezing. But what I always worry about is that something will happen with that heater and electrocute the sheep. It'd be bad enough if it quit working and the water freezes, but I really don't want to hurt the sheep. Now that is on a ground fault circuit, so it should be fine. If anything happens, it should trip out and be fine. But just as an extra precaution, I like to make sure I ground the water itself. So if anything happens, the current has a path to ground without going through the sheep. If I have time today, I'm going to do some work with the tractor. The forecast is it's going to be cold. That I know for sure. The wind, I'm not sure about. The other thing I'm not sure about is precipitation. I've seen forecasts saying it's just going to be cold. I've seen forecasts saying we're going to get freezing rain. Other forecasts saying we could get anywhere from 6 to 14 inches of snow. So until that gets a little closer, I really won't know. But today is the day I have opportunity to try to get things more prepared. So I'm going to try to do a little bit with the tractor if I can. The very least is get the grader blade on it in case we get the snow. I'll be able to move it around if I need to. But first of all, let's check the water, work on the barn, make sure the sheep are taken care of, and after taking care of the sheep, I guess I need to take care of myself too. You've seen in some previous videos the battery boxes that I built. I'm going to make sure that those are charged up. The bigger one, that it's really not done yet, but it will work. If we do get ice, and particularly if we get any wind with it, there's a pretty good chance we're going to lose power. So that will keep my freezer, my refrigerator, things like that running for at least a while. I'm also going to get my generator out, get it fired up, make sure it's ready to go. I need to make sure all my fuel cans are filled up and everything's ready there. So got a pretty busy day. I guess I better get at it. Okay, sheep. Well, like I said, we got to do safety first. So although this water is on a ground fault circuit, I want to make sure that the water itself is grounded. Also, before it gets any nastier, I'm going to clean that out. Now, this thing has two places to drink. They can drink from this side or this side. To help with the cold weather, since there's not anything drinking from this side of it, I've just put a piece of plywood across there with a concrete block on it to hold that down. Maybe that'll help hold some of the heat in and keep this heater from running quite so much. So the first thing let's check the ground. This is grounded. What I've done, this is the cord that goes in for the heater that plugs in underneath. Now there's a metal water pipe coming out of the ground, galvanized pipe comes out of the ground and feeds the bottom of this. So I've taken this piece of wire I can get it with my gloves. I simply tinned the edge of it with some solder so it'd stay together. Stick it down in the water. As you can see, it's stripped back pretty far, so it stays down in the water. Parts of it are even touching the heater, which doesn't really matter. It's the water I'm concerned about. But the ground wire then goes down and is clamped to that metal water line. So this ground wire grounds the water itself and keeps the current dissipated if there is any, and keeps the sheep safe. Even though this is on a ground fault circuit, when you mix water and electric, I try to be extra careful. Let's get this nasty thing cleaned out. Whew. Well, there's one task done. I was pretty sure I had put that ground wire in there, but not 100%. I feel a lot better knowing that that now I'm sure it's in there. Well, that post doesn't look like much, but I've actually got a plan for it. Well, there's another one of them little jobs that you wonder, why didn't I take a few minutes and do that a month ago? Well, since my ewes are pretty self-sufficient and they spend most of their time outside, about the only time they ever come in the barn is when they have lambs and I bring them in for a day or two. So I really think when the weather gets cold, even if I've got the barn opened up, they're not going to come in there. So to help encourage that a little bit, I've set up a couple of hay feeders here. When the weather gets cold, that's going to be a few days yet, but when the weather does really get cold, I'll put some hay in here, and that will encourage them to come on up into the barn area. I'll keep this back door open some so they can get in. And there's enough room that they can all get in here right behind the barn. They'll be able to get out of the wind, so I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. And where I had been aiming to turn these fellas out, well, I think they're going to have it best of all. I'm just going to leave them in here. I've rebedded their stall. I need to get them some more water. And I think they're just going to stay in here and be happy. Now that I've got things situated to keep the sheep warm, let's see what we can do to make sure we keep the house warm. It has been a while since this thing was started. Well, I guess this is what I get for letting this thing sit so long and not running it. I used to be pretty good about starting it at least once or twice a year, but it's probably been at least 2 years since it's been started. Get the old gas drained out of it, put some fresh gas in it, see if we can get this baby to fire up. Well, I think that's about all I can do to get prepared for all this weather coming in. I hope that'll be enough. If not, I guess we'll figure out something different. But appreciate you joining me for the video, and see you on the next one.